Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm FiddlinJonny. This is my Fiddle channel and magic product review. And before we get into any magic product review, we just play a little bit of fiddle for you. So, alright, hold on, let's see what comes out. Alright, anyway, glad you guys are all here. Today I'm going to review Blizzard by Dean Dill. Now, this is not a brand new release. It has been out for many years, but this is updated with new tutorials and a new updated gimmick. Stick around. We're going to get right into this. Alright everyone, let's get into Blizzard by Dean Dill. And let me start off with maybe what I consider some disclaimers. First time I saw this routine, just completely fooled. Did not know what the method is. And I feel a little embarrassed by that because after you've been doing magic for decades, it's hard to watch magic and not go, oh, there was the move. Or, oh, yeah, no, I know what they're doing there. No, totally baffled. Didn't know what the method was. That occurred here. So I love being fooled because that happens so infrequently that when it happens it feels delightful because it makes the magic new for you. The other thing that I would add, and it's a disclaimer for my review here, is that I love this type of a plot in magic. It goes back to, I think, like the invisible deck. Like there's only one card and it's the spectator's choice that's turned over in the deck. Similar to like quantum deck or variation on it, like it's a card at number, but essentially the only card that they've chosen by the spectator is the only printed card in a deck at that location. So this plot has been around for a long time. It's a plot that I really like. Dean really sort of started this style of plot, and so many other variations, as just mentioned, have grown from that. So I have a bias towards this plot, and so it makes me like, oh, I really like this effect. I'm going to try to highlight a couple of the things that I think, despite how much I love this plot, things that some of you I think would probably care about and like to know before purchasing. So let's get into it. And if you don't know what the effect is, if you boil it down, the effect is a spectator freely thinks of any card in a deck. That card is pulled out along with the three other matching pairs. So if it's the Queen of Hearts, let's say, your spectator is chosen. You pull out all four queens, face down. Your spectator eliminates those cards. The only card that's left is finally the Queen of Hearts. And then you reveal at that point that there's not a single card in the entire deck that is printed. That they chose the only printed card in the deck. That's the effect. I love that effect. And I love all the variations on it. So let's talk about what are you going to get. So you're going to get bicycle rider back blank face cards. So and they are bicycle cards. They are rider back, but they are all blank. There's nothing gimmicked here. They're just blank faced cards with a rider back deck. You're also going to get a gimmicked tuck case. So those are sort of the two physical products that you're going to get. What you're not going to get, but it is necessary to have, is a regular rider back deck of cards, fully printed. You're going to need that. You will need to supply that yourself. In addition to this, you're also going to get a PDF, and the PDF is the original printed version that Dean Dill put out when he originally released this effect. And for those, I made some assumptions. For those of you who don't know Dean Dill is now passed away. He's no longer with us, but this was one of the effects that he had released many years ago, and is now a classic within magic. But there are updates to some of the things here. So you're going to get the gimmick. I mentioned the PDF. Let me talk a little bit about the routines on here. So you're going to get 3 routines total. Basically, you're getting the original Dean Dill version, and then you're going to get one by Anthony Miller and it's the Colossal Blizzard, and then you're going to get one by Luke Germain, which is the Colossal Blizzard 2.0. So 2 variations on the original. Those additional ones don't have what I would call the bold move, and I'm not going to share what the bold move is because it gives away method in it. But if you don't or are afraid of the bold move that's done in the original version, these Colossal Blizzard versions do not have that bold move. I think the bold move's easier personally, but everyone sort of has their preferences. So you're going to get tutorials from them on those versions. And Magic Ballet, a magician out of New York, does a lot of social media, is also going to do sort of I think they call it a crash course in equivoque. So that's going to happen, and folks go, what's equivoque? I've heard of equivoque or magician's choice. That's the same thing. They're all the same thing. And we can end the discussion now. It's equivoque. It's not equivoque, not magician's choice. It's equivoque. All right, I'm glad we've settled that. Talking about what you're going to get, I don't think I mentioned that you're getting a tutorial. And the tutorial is 87 minutes and 30 minutes in length. So it's a good long, you get over hours worth of tutorial. And with that said, within 10 minutes of this tutorial, anyone is going to be able to walk away and start performing it. So after that 10 minutes, everything's just gravy. Once Eric Tate goes through the original version, the method, you can go out and start performing it. Everything else on there is gravy, in my humble opinion. The tutorial is streaming and downloadable as well. So, all right, let's talk about how are the instructions. So Eric Tate is the bulk of the training on this from Penguin Magic, and then Magic Ballet is going to do the additional crash course in equivoque. So Eric Tate's going to teach all those versions that I spoke about on there. He does it in the studio at Penguin Magic, so the quality is really good. He also is just really detailed, and I find him to be a really good teacher in that he provides all the detail for someone. If this is their very first magic trick, they're going to get everything that they need, and it's paced really, really well. And I think for an experienced magician, you're not going to be like, oh my God, move this along. It's done in a way that's really nice. So I'll add one other thing about the tutorial, is that it opens with several live performances with Eric Tate at a bar performing it. What I specifically like is that you get to see the bold move done in front of your spectator in broad daylight that folks think I'll never get away with, and yet you see over and over, people just never notice it. So I did want to point that out, and I liked that aspect of it. There's additional stuff that's on there. You're going to see Dean Dill in an interview by Cosmos from Real Magic, done many, many years ago. And that was just a pleasure to see. While Cosmos getting a haircut, he's interviewing Dean Dill, and he talks mostly about how he met Johnny Carson from The Tonight Show and eventually ended up on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And for those of you who are younger, before Jimmy Fallon and before Jay Leno were hosting The Tonight Show, it was hosted by a gentleman named Johnny Carson, and was the biggest thing on late night TV at that time. So let's talk a little bit about the gimmick. What's different about this gimmick? I'm going to bring this close up so folks can see it close up, and I'm going to point out what the difference is. So this is way more durable than the original. On the original, there was one of the top or the bottom missing on your gimmick, and that is not true. On this one, you will have all 4 sides, and the material here is different. This is solid material here, so a big difference. So durable, should last a long time, maybe even a lifetime, except for the wear and tear that will happen on the actual printing on here. So that's the gimmick. I think the gimmick's great. It's durable, will last forever. If you don't like this gimmick, and let's say you work with Daniel Madison cards all the time and you wish it was printed with Daniel Madison cards, but you don't know what the method is, once you receive this and you see, oh, I understand, I could build that gimmick myself with a regular, from the tuck case of whatever deck you prefer to use, you could go ahead and do so. Will it be as durable as this? No, but at least you're performing with a deck of cards that you prefer to perform with all the time. They don't teach you that on the tutorial, but it's so straightforward, I think you can figure it out and how to do it yourself. So good gimmick should last a very long time. Could make your own gimmick if you wanted to as well. Let me talk this sort of naturally leads me into, I wanted to, after I originally, I always write out sort of my talking points for these. After I'd written out all my talking points, spent a day or two thinking about it, I realized that I sort of walk away going like, this is an awesome effect, an awesome trick, well worth it. And I still feel that way. But there are things that I thought about and went, these are the sort of things that people will, they're small things, but just kind of for you to know. So if you're, and this is stuff that's not on your any ad copy, this is my opinion. I think if you're going to perform this effect, it's best to perform it on a your pad that you might use for your card tricks, or if you're performing on tabletop where you don't have your performance pad, it's nice if it has a tablecloth on it, something that's sort of a soft surface. I think that's the ideal performing situation. If you're performing at home or in a venue where you have like a glass tabletop or a wooden tabletop with nothing else on it, you can still do it in those, but what's going to happen in my opinion is you may get a little bit of talking from the gimmick that is provided. Now, I know that I have a magician's perspective, and my magician perspective is, damn, that is loud. Oh, that's noticeable, and it makes me uncomfortable. I've never had a spectator ever notice it or ever say anything, but I know that some people will care about sort of those small sort of things. And while in performance, if I'm in that type of performance, I might find that as a mild irritant. It's just me. Spectators don't notice and they're just enjoying it. But something I did want to share with you, there is a little bit of talking. And by talking, I mean it makes a little bit of noise at small points, like when you're maybe setting it down. Maybe it doesn't sound like a normal tuck case. And of course, there's things that they teach on the video to make sure that like how you pick up and set down your gimmick and how to do those. And I think those are very helpful, but just something to think about when you're doing this. You can perform this standing or sitting, but you will need a table. I wouldn't do this where I'd have my spectators put out their hands and I'd put it in their hands. You could do that. I prefer to do it on a tabletop for when I do my final display of spreading my cards and showing that all of them are blank there. You don't want to have anyone directly behind you, and while in some situations I think you could get away with it, it's preferable to have them more at angles and not directly behind you so they don't see part of the method. There are some things actually, once you get this, and if you don't know what the method is, from a gimmick perspective, you could do other things that aren't even taught on there, and I would encourage you to be creative. Like you could do a color changing deck routine if you desired. So there's other routines that you can do with this style of a gimmick, and I would encourage you to explore and think about what those things are. I'm going to add one other embarrassing aspect here that has nothing to do with this, but I'll just share. Have you ever been in a gigging situation where you're using two decks and you pull out the deck and you're well into your routine and you realize, oh darn, I pulled out the wrong deck. And then you try to recoup and figure out how am I going to move forward. I perform this it is obviously done with rider back cards, but my second deck, in which the spectator actually picks a card from, I use my maiden back cards to do that routine. So I'm getting to the close where I have 4 cards in front of my spectator, and they're essentially eliminating those cards, and one of them does not match the other 3 cards. I'm at that point and going, oh, this is terrible. My spectator never, ever even noticed it. So I thought, dodge that bullet. Out of that experience, I thought, let's do it again. Performed it again, the exact same sort of scenario. Spectator just never, ever notices it. So sometimes things that as magicians, in errors, you learn sort of things. And in this error, I learned that my spectator just doesn't even notice that they're squarely looking at 2 different back cards in front of them, and they don't notice it. So embarrassing, but I thought I'd share that with you, and something that I've done with Blizzard. So we all make mistakes. It's a matter of how we recover and get up from them. All right, let's talk about what is the skill level. This is just a beginner skill level. And despite that it is beginner skill level, and when I say beginner skill level, really you can perform this 10 minutes after watching the tutorial. But it's great for professionals, and professionals have been using this for decades now. It's that sort of tried and true and what I think of as a classic now. I've mentioned all the pros. I think the effect is strong, easy to learn, durable gimmick, should last a very long time. When I was looking at cons, I don't have any real cons other than I feel like the gimmick talks slightly. And I think that's a magician problem more than anything else. When I think about who's going to like this, I think any card magician who likes close-up magic will love this and is really well suited for them. It's not sort of a stage or parlor type of effect in my opinion. It's sort of like close-up style card magic is where it's best. In the United States, this costs $39.95, and I think this is very reasonable for the secret that you're getting on this and the quality gimmick that you're getting on this. So from a price point, I think it's very reasonable, but everyone sort of has what's reasonable for them. But in the United States, $39.95. All right, that's all I have for this one. I do think it's a solid release and something that many folks will just perform forever. I know I do. So if you have the original version or the new version, share some of your thoughts on it in the comments. It would be really appreciated. Also, just if you don't, just say hi in the comments. I always appreciate that. And today, of course, it is free to hit that like button and to subscribe. So please, if you haven't yet subscribed, do so and hit that like button. It really does help. All right, thank you everybody. I'm FiddlinJonny, and remember to keep fiddling around with your magic. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.